This weekend, Michigan International Speedway truly earned its nickname as the fastest track in NASCAR. We saw speeds that we haven't seen since the mid-'80s, back when cars looked like this, back before we had restrictor plates on them. And we saw a qualifying session that shattered the track's previous record for average speed, held 4 times. MIS was another good weekend for Clint Boyer in the 15 car, posting yet another top 10 finish and advancing themselves in the chase standings from 16th to 15th place, putting a 22-point lead advantage over the 17th place car. Now Brian was running great the first half of the race, running in the top 10, until an unexpected wheel vibration forced us to have an early pit that was out of sequence, dropping us a lap. Now trying to get that lap back, we were racing real hard towards the end of the race, and Brian lost control of the car and spun out, causing a little bit of damage that we were able to fix on pit road, but ultimately we were never able to advance further in the field. Our first question this week is, with all the safety measures inside of these cars, how limited is the driver's vision and how important is the communication between the driver and the spotter? Well, the spotter's job is to be the eyes for the driver on the racetrack. With how tight these crash foam is and with the Hans device around their neck, the driver's head movement is very limited. So all they can see is directly in front of them and directly behind in their rear view mirror, as well as to the left right here. Now their whole right side is almost completely blind with this giant padding right here. So the drivers really have to trust their spotters and know that when he clears them, they're clear to go up, because when they move up the track, they're almost driving blind. Our 55 crew, as well as our test team, stayed an extra day up at MIS to test 2015 aerodynamic and engine packages that NASCAR might implement for next year. Among the things that we're doing is we're testing different horsepower sets. And how we do this, we use different size restrictor plates to go from our current 850 horsepower down to 800 and then ultimately down to 750 horsepower. In addition to these horsepower restrictions, we're also going to be testing dive planes. Dive planes are small grooves in the front of the car, about halfway between the splitter and the top of the hood, on both the right and the left side of the bumpers. Also, we're going to be testing a 9-inch spoiler, a driver-adjusted track bar, and a 6% rear gear differential. Now, since these race cars are rear-wheel driven, the front wheels spin independently of one another, but the rear wheels are linked together so that one engine and one transmission can power them both. And this is all joined by the rear differential. In every one of these boxes standing here behind me on these shelves is a different ratio set for our rear differential. Now when we're testing this week is this 6% gear ratio. And this differential, the way differentials work is that no tires are spinning at the same speed on the race car at one given time, especially when these drivers are executing a turn. Now the inside tire, or the left tires, are actually spinning a fewer number of times during the turn than the outside tires are. If you didn't have a differential, both tires would be spinning the same speed and the same number of times, making the left side tire skip or slide out trying to keep up with the right rear tire. And since speed is equal to the distance traveled divided by the time it takes to travel said distance, this is all made possible by the rear gear differential. Now, gear ratio is defined as to how many times this drive shaft turns to how many times the rear axle turns, and it's set by the number of teeth that are on the ring and the pinion gears. So the higher the gear ratio, the more power that's transmitted to these rear wheels. But the more power or torque that's actually given to them, the higher the RPMs run by the engine, resulting in poor fuel mileage. With each passing week, the pressure and excitement continue to build, but we still have 3 racetracks to head to in order to capture that all too elusive win. First, Bristol, which is one of Clint and Brian's favorites, and then we head to Atlanta, where Clint was dusting the competition last year until we had engine failure. And then finally Richmond, the race before the chase, where we've had some success at in the last few years.